Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to this edition on the discussion, virtual Ayurveda case study discussion on Kasa by Purnarogya Holistic Healthcare. I am Dr. Sanjay, speaking to you from Kerala, India. We have already finished discussing the case previously in the first and second editions, and we have understood the symptoms, we have understood the pathogenesis, Samprapti, Nidana Panchaka, the Nidana, Purva Rupa, Rupa, Upashaya, and Samprapti of Kasa. Kasa is often translated in English as cough in most of the books. So conventionally, I am using the same word, although in Ayurveda, Kasa has a much broader implication, which indicates a type of pathology that is going on inside the body. It's described as a sequence of pathologies which comes before Kasa and then leading to other pathologies which are coming after Kasa. But for ease of conversation, I will refer to it as cough or Kasa. We already discussed, just to review, I'd like to share my screen with you. Okay. So earlier we discussed about the mechanism of how Kasa is formed and all the different implications and the doshas associated with them, how it happens. Now we come to the management. So what is the lifestyle recommended? Before we go into the medications and different types of Ayurvedic interventions like Panchakarma and others which are mentioned, let us look at the different types of food and lifestyle which are recommended for Kasa. Kasa, as we know, is a Vata Kapha pathology. Either it is a Vata Kapha or Kapha Vata. It can also be Kapha predominant, or it can be Kapha Vata accompanied by some Pitta also. Pitta is never the major pathology as far as Kasa is concerned. As far as the dhatus are concerned, we already saw that Rasa Rakta Mamsa can get affected, and sometimes it can go very deep down in case of Kshayaja Kasa and Kshataja Kasa, which are the last two varieties of Kasa that we discussed, that the pathology can go deep down into the deeper dhatus, Asti Dhatu, Shukla Dhatu, Majja Dhatu, and so on. Those are much more complicated. So, as far as the lifestyle is concerned, if we look at the Grishma Ritucharya, why am I taking you to Ritucharya right now, which is seasonal regimen described in Ayurveda? We know that the human body is a microcosm, a miniature representation of the macrocosm. And there are so many seasons which go on changing time after time. And Ayurveda describes that there is a season outside the body and there is also a season inside the body. In a healthy person, the season inside the body corresponds with the season outside the body. But when we become diseased or imbalanced, what it means is that the season inside the body is changing. The change of seasons are nothing but the changes of the dosha predominances, the changes of the gunas, the qualities in the body. So, in one sense, Kasa can also be described as an extreme summer season which is manifesting inside the body. So in the summer, we know that there is a accumulation of vata, chaya. Vata chaya takes place in summer, and slowly the period is coming to an end. The spring season, which is the season that is predominant for kapha, is coming to an end. So this particular Ritucharya seasonal regimen is recommended for balancing the vata, which is accumulating in the Grishma or summer season. So when we have disease which is predominant vata accompanied with kapha, the season that corresponds the most with this kind of atmosphere, it's an atmosphere within the body, and the season that corresponds with this atmosphere is the summer season. So we can safely say that it is a summer, it is like an extreme summer that is going on inside the body. And if you look at Ashtanga Hridaya Sutra Sthana, chapter 3, from verse 26 to 41, there is elaborate description of the seasonal regimen that one is supposed to follow in order to prevent any kind of imbalances from occurring in summer season. So this we can adopt the same thing in the case of Kasa as well. And then before the summer, there is also Vasanta. In certain cases of Kasa, there may be increased accumulation of kapha. Although it is a vata pathology, but the kapha has increased so much that it is actually blocking or covering the vata. It can be called as obstructive kapha or even as covering, which is known as avarana. So in this case, we can adopt the Vasanta or the spring Ritucharya, which is also described in the same chapter, Ashtanga Hridaya Sutrasthana, third chapter, from the 18th verse up to the 25th verse. So these are the two seasonal regimen. We will come back to it later if we have time. So it is described here in 13th chapter, Sutrasthana. The 13th chapter deals with different treatments. As we progress in the Ashtanga Hridaya Sutrasthana, in the beginning there is the introduction, then there is the daily regimen, then the seasonal regimen, and then the foods and different foods and drinks. And then it starts describing the different tastes and the different pathologies, the different treatments. So when it comes to the point of describing the treatments in chapter 13, then the author takes us back to chapter 3 and says, Grishma Prayo Marutpitte. Whenever there is a Vata Pitta pathology, then you can adopt the Grishma, the summer regimen. Whenever there is Vasanta Kapha Marute, Vasanta is spring season. In the spring season, one can, in the case of a Kapha Vata pathology, one can adopt the seasonal regimen of the spring season. Maruto Yoga Vahitvat, Kapha Pittetu Sharada. So, in case of a Kapha Pitta pathology, one can adopt the seasonal regimen of Sharad season or the autumn season. So, this is what is described. What about the diet? The diet is also described. Shite Varshasu Chadyam Strin, Vasante Antyan Rasan Bhaje, Swadum Nidhage Sharadi, Swadu Tikta Kashayakan. So, it is described that in the winter season and the rainy season, one should adopt the first three tastes. That is the sweet, sour, and salty tastes. Vasante Antyan Rasan. In the spring season, the last three tastes. That is the bitter taste, pungent taste, and the astringent. Swadum Nidhage Sharadi. In the autumn season, one should take predominantly sweet taste and swadu tikta kashayakan, sweet, bitter, and astringent taste. So these are the different tastes which are recommended. In the Grishma, in the summer season, when the heat is increasing and it is a vata accumulating kind of period, then sweet taste is very much recommended also. Then Sharad Vasantayo Ruksham Sheetam Dharma Ghanantayo. In the autumn and the spring season, one should take dry foods and cooling foods, drying and cooling, and Annapanam Samasena Viparitam Tato Anyada. So, whether we should take cold foods or hot foods, drying food or unctuous or wet, oily foods, this is what is described in Ashtanga Hridaya Sutrasthana 3.56. So, in autumn season, spring season, one should take drying and cooling foods, and in the other seasons, one should take the opposite. So, that is described. So, this same instructions can be followed for diet and lifestyle as far as Vata Kapha, the Kasa pathology is concerned. Now, what about exercise? It is described, there is no separate nidana or cause described for kasa in Ashtanga Hridaya. Why? Because it is already described in the first chapter. All the nidanas that aggravate vata can actually be a cause for the manifestation of kasa as well. So, any kind of excessive exertion, as we discussed in this kind of in this particular patient, we had earlier described that the patient has a habit of going for long walks, 4 kilometer, 5 kilometer, 6 kilometer walks, in spite of being in an elderly age, above 60, going for long walks was one of the main reasons why this person has actually developed or has a tendency to repeatedly keep developing this kind of kasa, cough pathology. So, as far as exercise is concerned, best is to have no exercise. Avoid excess work, just normal work. Take more rest because it is a vata pathology. Any kind of movement can aggravate the condition. So avoid long walks, avoid excessive heavy work. Talking loudly. Another reason why this person developed Kasa was because she had a habit of speaking for long periods and speaking very loudly. So, talking loudly, speaking for a long time is also another cause for vata pathology, vata aggravation. So, this should be avoided. Then, other pathologies like traveling, bumpy rides, staying awake in the night time, irregular timings for taking food, and taking foods which are more dry, taking foods which are we're having the bitter, pungent, and astringent tastes. These are the three different tastes which aggravate vata. So, this kind of vata aggravating activities should be avoided. Also, in addition, anxiety, stress, fear, these are all different emotional reasons which can increase vata. So, in certain patients, it could be an emotional reason. The cough, we may give all kinds of medications, but still the cough is not going away. And if we take a detailed history, we can find out that the patient might be actually going through a very difficult period in life, which is causing a lot of stress, anxiety, and maybe insecurities and fear, which may be the cause of the vata. So, therefore, this has to be addressed by suitable amount of counseling or certain medications which can support the mind, some medications which can support our ashwagandha. This is one of the very good rejuvenating medicines also recommended in Kasa. Ashwagandha can be given in the form of arishta, or ashwagandha can be given in the form of ashwagandha the ghruta, especially in the case of Shayaja Kasa where there is depletion of the dhatus. Ashwagandha ghruta is very much indicated. Then other medications like Brahmi, if there is associated Pitta in the Kasa pathology, then Brahmi in the form of Brahmi Lehya or Brahmi Grita or Brahmi Tailam on the head can be used for palliating as well as supporting the stress. Because these days, one of the major things that you will find with every pathology, almost every pathology, is that the person is undergoing tremendous amount of stress. So in all the different prescriptions, in my experience, I have seen experienced practitioners adding something or the other to support the mind, because that is invariably essential in all prescriptions. So there are many different types of Ayurvedic medications which support the mind. One of the most common being Manasamitra Matakam, which is very commonly prescribed by physicians in Kerala. So these are the different medications which can be given in case of uh, Kasa, when it is having a predominant stress-related mental affliction and pathology. Next, let us come to the medicines. The medicines which can be given, these are the different formulations that can be used in terms of Kasa. Grita, as you know, is the ghee. There are different types of ghees. We will come to that. Kashayam is herbal decoction. Churnam is the herbal powder. Lehyam is the jam-like preparation. It can be made using either ghee or with oil and with sugar or with jaggery. So depending on that, of course, jaggery is better in case of Vata Kapha pathology. Bhuma is herbal smoke. And then there are different specific foods which are recommended, soups, milk decoctions, and so on. Vamana is also recommended, but especially in Pitta associated Pitta Kapha type of Kasa, that we will look into that. Before that, I would like to draw your attention to a few things. This Kasa has always been a very tricky thing to manage for the Vaidyas. One reason being that it is a Vata pathology in a Kapha area. As you know, the Kapha, the chest area and above, is actually connected to the Kapha dosha, Kapha predominant, and it is the entrance of the Vata inside the Kapha that is causing this kind of pathology. So Vata and Kapha at the same time are both opposites. They have completely different extreme on two different extremes, and as we know, there is no single rasa or single taste that can counteract or balance both Vata and Kapha. Of course, before I forget, I want to say one of the major things that can actually cause Vata aggravation in today's world, what we see is called as Vego Dhirana Dharana. Vega, the natural urges, the natural physical urges, as described in the fourth chapter, Roga Anutpadaniya. There are 13 natural urges which are described, which includes urine, stool, flatus, and so on. So these different Vegas which are in the downward direction, especially Vata Anuloma Gati, which is in the downward direction, when they are obstructed, for example, when somebody is constipated, when somebody is has a tendency to withhold urine, when somebody is busy with some work or something else, then people have a tendency to withhold it. So this Vego Tirana Dharana can become a Vego Dharana to withhold this. Becomes a very important part in dealing with a important cause for the manifestation of Kasa. So when we take the history for Kasa and see the condition of the Koshta, one hand we have to look for whether there is any constipation, and we also have to look for the consistency of the stool, where if we find that it is very dry and we understand that the koshta, the gastrointestinal tract, the colon is very dry, then that becomes a very important thing in terms of dealing with Kasa. So Coming back, there is no single rasa that can counteract both vata and kapha at the same time. The first is the Chikitsa Sutra given in the Ashtanga Hridayam. Kasa is primarily due to a vata vitiation, as we know, but then the other doshas can get can accompany. Vata is obstructed and undergoes Viloma Gati. Viloma means like a perverted movement. The normal Gati of Vata, in this case, it is a Urdhva Gati. It is the downward movement which is obstructed and then it causes an upward movement of Vata. So it can be either Kevala Vata, just Vata in the beginning stage, it may be just only Vata which is trying to move upwards. But as the Vata moves into the Kapasthana, very quickly in due course of time, it will start disturbing the Kapha also. As we know that when any dosha enters into the region of another dosha, it cannot cause a pathology unless it disturbs the predominant dosha of that particular area. So it can be either Kevala Vata, only Vata, or in due course of time, Anubandha, accompanied with either Kapha or Pitta. Pitta is usually not playing a major role, it may come and go, but Kapha can actually play a predominant role in terms of Kapha and lead it to other pathologies. So Kasa is the attempt of the body to throw out this vitiated dosha or something, some obstruction. Anything that is obstructing, it is the nature of the body to throw it out, to once again restore the smooth movement. So when there is obstruction of vata downwards, this vata is trying to move, the excess is trying to move out of the body. So it is the malas or the doshas or the waste which is obstructing the nadis and the slotas. So the treatment protocol will involve actually trying to clear out, trying to relieve the obstruction in the srotas, the channels of the body and the nadis. At the same time, strengthening the srotas, strengthening the organs which are responsible, which are being affected the most. These are the two things which are most important in terms of dealing with Kasa. Is first of all to remove the obstruction and then to establish normal movement, and thirdly to strengthen the organs which are affected, whether it may be the fosta, the gastrointestinal tract, whether it may be the mind, whether it may be the respiratory organs or the all the blood carrying organs. So these are the different aspects in terms of dealing with Kasa. If it is Kevala Vata, only Vata involved, there is a possibility, two possibilities are there. One is that the channels or the nadis, they may be obstructed. And second, obstruction can be either due to something lodged in that, some kind of mucus or ama or something which is blocking, or it can be because over a period of time, due to some reason, the rukshatva or the dryness has set in, and there is a shrinking or shriveling up of the nadis. So these are two things which can obstruct the vata. In any case, if there is any shriveling up, if it is only vata, it's mostly due to this rukshatva, this narrowing of the lumen of the channels. So we need to actually give unctuousness to strengthen, and this is done in the form of giving grita or different types of ghees, which are that is the first thing that is mentioned in the when we look at the Chikitsa sthana of Vata in Ashtanga Hridaya. The first thing that we find is the Grita that is used, Gulucha Digrita, Rasna Dashamula Digrita, and so on. Yeah. So the Kevala Vata pathologies usually we use more warmth, we use more grita, more strengthening, more unctuousness, oily preparations. We will go into the details of discussing those preparations in a few minutes. Then if there is then another thing that can be given in Kevala Vata is Vasti, because to relieve the obstruction in the lower channels as well as to balance the Vata, because it is a Vata Sthana, so aggravation of Vata has to be controlled from there. So performance of Vasti, which is more of a strengthening or a Brahmana or a kind of Snehana kind of oily Matra Vasti, these kind of Vastis can be very beneficial in terms of dealing with Kevala Vata. If there is a pitta kopa, aggravation of pitta that is associated, then it is recommended to use ghee and milk. As we know, ghee is the varaushada, the best medicine for balancing pitta. So there are different ghees, medicated ghees and medicated milk, which can be given for in case of pitta, especially the milk and ghee made out of the substances, dravyas or herbs, which are having sweet taste or bitter taste. This kind of tiktaka, madhuyashtyadi ghritam made out of licorice. This kind of ghees and milk are especially recommended. Ashwagandha. So usually pitta is never too aggravated, but and it is not a major dosha in kasa. But if it is there, it has to be dealt with, and accordingly the prescription has to be modified. If kapha kopa is associated, there is aggravation of kapha, which is very commonly found because it is the kapha sthana. The first thing recommended is to give a good purgation. Castor oil is recommended because it is snigdha virechana. Vata can actually be causing a lot of rukshatva and dryness. So therefore, virechana, by virechana we want to remove the excess kapha that is accumulated in the stomach, in the gastrointestinal tract, to throw it outside the body. At the same time, we want to avoid any excessive dryness. So castor oil is actually especially recommended because it produces snigdha virechana, an unctuous type of oily type of virechana. It does not cause any dryness to the gastrointestine, and it is also vata pacifying. So in case of vata kapha kasa, this kind of virechana is recommended. If the pathology is associated with penasa, that means a running nose and obstruction in the nasal passages, then herbal smoke, dhuma, as we described, is also good. The dhuma is usually done with herbs which are unctuous, especially licorice and dashamula, this kind of different rasna. They are all used for the different vratas are used for performing the herbal smoke therapy. Now one may ask the question, why is Vamana not generally recommended in Kapha Anubandha Kasa? Because if Kapha is predominant and the best treatment for Kapha is Vamana, then why is it not recommended for Kasa? We can see that one reason being that the movement of Vata is in the upward direction in case of Kasa, and Vamana is also a treatment that moves the doshas in the upward direction. So when the pathology of the disease is movement of the dosha in the upward direction, then it is not a very good choice to choose a treatment also which moves the dosha in the same direction. So therefore, although kapha is associated, here we use virechana to clear that, because we need the downward movement of vata in this particular case, because in case of kasa, the predominant dosha that is involved is vata, although kapha may be associated. And kapha can also be removed through virechana. So this is one, and this is the reason why Vamana is generally not recommended. But if there is a huge amount of kapha involved, and it starts overcoming the effect of the Vata dosha and starts playing the predominant role, then we can actually think of using Vamana also. In case of Vata Pitta Kasa, and if kapha is associated and kapha is strong, then as I said, Vamana may be required. So going down, yes, now let us go into the discussion of various formulations that are being used for treating this Vata Kasa. The first formulation that is described is Guluchadigratam. Of course, at the outset, I can just say that there are so many preparations which can be used for dealing with Kasa, and we may not have the time to go through all of them. But as we discuss through different examples of different formulations, I'm sure that you will get an idea about how to choose and how to, the thought process of how we are looking at the different formulations and trying to make a choice. When it comes to Kasa, of course, we should remember that before choosing any formulation, we must look into associated pathologies, whether the person has any kind of stomach problems, any ulcers, or whether there is any heart problem, cardiac issues, whether the person has any other associated respiratory pathologies. For example, if a person has a bronchogenic carcinoma or so on, or if the person has liver related pathologies or renal pathologies. So each of these formulations are designed in such a way that they address not only just Kasa, but they also have effect on many other systems of the body. So once we make a complete thorough analysis of which system is involved, and then we can make the right choice of the formulation, which doshas are involved, and we can make a perfect choice of the formulation, as we will see as we go ahead. The first thing that the first formulation we are looking at is Guluchadi Ghritam, which is ghee made out of Guluchadi Ghana. The Guluchadi Ghana is described in Ashtanga Hridayam. Guruji, Padmakarishta, Dhanyakam, Rakta Chandanam. So these are 5 different ingredients present in Guruji, and this is more of a Guruji is a uh, Tridosha balancing combination. All Vata, Pitta, Kapha, all 3 of them are addressed. Probably that is the reason why it was given in the very beginning. Guruji also has a very strong Pitta balancing, and so being a Dhrutam, it is also Pitta balancing, and then Vata Kapha is also balanced. There are other herbs which are contained within that: Chandana, sandalwood, and Patmaka, and Arishta, which is Neem. Neem is also included, which is Kapha balancing. uh, Rakta Chandanam, Dhanyakam, which is coriander. Coriander is also having a Agni Deepana property. One of the reason why the excess kapha is being formed is because the Deepana, there is ama in the system, and it does not help to burn away the excess ama, which is causing obstruction of the vata and making it move upwards. So this pitta shleshma jvara chardi trishna dahagnam agnikrit. So the Guruchyadi Kritam, Guruchyadi Gana is especially indicated in Pitta Shleshma. The Pitta and Kapha can be balanced along with Vata also, because it is Agni Krit and it is a Gritam ghee. So this Vataja Kasa is especially and also augments the digestive power. Then we can also give many external treatments, not only internal. We can use all these different formulations in external formation as well. As you know, Vata and Kapha are best balanced using Thailam, sesame. So if Vata Kapha is involved, then we can actually perform an Abhyanga, a massage using Bala Guluchadi Thailam, a Shiro Abhyanga. If there is not much Kapha involved, if there is not much Ama involved, if it is more of a Kevalavata kind of situation, then actually Abhyanga can be of great help. One of the, for examples of the medications which can be used is Bala Guruchyadi Thailam, which is also very strengthening and also balancing all the doshas. And Kshira Bala, one of the different preparations, as we saw, is milk decoction, which can be prepared to be taken internally. So Kshira Bala 101, potentiated Kshira Bala, which is 100 times potentiated. A few drops, maybe 8 or 9 drops in warm milk at bedtime on empty stomach with some dry ginger to actually help to digest it, to give some deepana, is very good in terms of vata, especially kshayaja kasa. Kshaya, where there is depletion or degeneration of the srotas, Kshirabala has got very good vata balancing and regenerative properties, especially in patients who are having this Kasa pathology associated with loss of sleep. That could be one of the reasons: anxiety, loss of sleep, stress. Shirabala actually has very good action on giving good sleep, very sound sleep. It can be given in milk. A few drops can be applied on the head. A few drops can be applied on the soles of the feet. So this is very important. Then when you look at the description in the book Ashtanga Hridaya, they initially start speaking about Shodhana, cleansing processes. But in practical, in terms of practice, we first begin with Shamana, trying to pacify the doshas using oral medicines or other external treatments. But if it doesn't get pacified through food and lifestyle modifications and medicines, then if it is bahu dosha, too many excessive accumulation of doshas, and that is when we actually go into a shodhana cleansing type of treatments. So let us look at some associated, how do we choose the different medications? Here, just for your reference, I have prepared a small chart which actually shows you some of the preparations. As we described, we are looking first at kashaya, which is the first thing we are looking at bala jirakadi kashaya, which is made out of bala, jiraka, etc. And we can see that this preparation is tridosha balancing, vata, pitta, and kapha balancing, and it is vata anulomana, that is makes the vata move in the physiological, in the normal direction. It has got deepana property. It is hritya. So we can actually see that if there is an associated cardiac pathology, then this is a good choice. And it expands the srotas. So it has got more effect on kevala vata pathology. It's not more of nourishing kind of. It's more of a sankochahara. That is the srotas which are shriveled up, that can be prevented and treated. So Shwasa Kasa and Shita Ushna Virya. Shita Ushna Virya, the virya of the medicine is, it is neither hot nor cold, so it is somewhere in between, and the dosage is muhur muhur, continuously being administered one after at regular intervals, maybe half an hour, 3 hourly doses or 2 hourly doses can be given. And in this medicine can be combined as anupana. This is another very important thing as far as Ayurvedic medication is concerned. Anupana, which actually potentiates the action of the different medicines. Sometimes the anupana may be other medicines, it may be herbs, it may be even something like rice gruel, it may be sometimes even just warm water, cold water. So this anupana plays a very important role. Kasturyadi gulika, which is warm in nature, which is water pacifying, it is camphor based. And Dhanvantaram gulika, which is also very strengthening and water balancing. Pippali churna, especially, that is not with Balaji Rakadu. So here we can see if it is a chronic pathology associated with cardiac disease and dry cough, then this formulation is one of the best. As we saw that it is hridya and it is sankochahara. It's only after a chronic long period of time that the srotas actually starts shriveling up due to a long-standing pathology. Then we can see dashamula. So the first one was shitoshna virya. It was a combination of not too hot, not too cold. But then if we want a more ushna virya, where there is more kapha involved, we want to actually melt the kapha, we want to actually clear up the blockages, then a good option would be dashamulam, which is vata kapha pacifying. And as you can see here, it is kapha anubandha vatahara. Kapha anubandha, that kapha is just slightly associated with vata, just getting connected. It is also vata anulomana. As compared with balajirakadi, it is not only deepana, it is deepana pachana. So it is also having a digestive effect on the ama. So when there is a lot of ama in the system, then balajirakadi may not be a good combination. The dashamulam kashayam will be better. It is balya, strengthening. Mutrala, it has got an effect on the renal system. It is hridya, it has got an effect on the cardiac system. It is fusfusa balya, it gives strength to the respiratory system also. So if there is some associated respiratory pathology, bronchitis, pneumonia, and so on, and cough is also associated, then Dashamulam Kashayam is a good choice. It has a very wide range. It is also Sankojahara, which is which supports the Shrotas from shriveling up, avoiding the shriveling up of the Shrotas. It supports a wide range of systems, as we saw: cardiac system, the respiratory system, renal system. It is also light. So therefore, if there is here we can see that it is light in its gurutva, in terms of its digestive its digestibility. It is light, and thus it can be easily digested by the person. And for to enhance the digestibility, we are using Pippali Churna as Anupana, and we are using that one. If we look at this, how do I move this here? Okay. Yeah, if we look at the indication, we will find that cough and dyspnea associated with multiple system involvement, especially the renal involvement. This Dashamulam Kashayam is a very good choice. If we go down, we see Dashamula Katutrayam. Here we find that the Ushnatva, the Pachana property is more enhanced. So if there is an extreme ama, or if a Kapha Avarana, that means in the Vata Kapha pathology where Kapha has actually become more predominant than the Vata and is playing a more stronger role in the pathology, then we need a stronger Kapha pacifying formulation, which is Dashamula Katutrayam Kashayam, which has got, in addition to Dashamula, it has also got Trikatu in it. It is called, that is why it is called Katutrayam. We know that Trikatu is very strongly Kapha pacifying, and thus this kind of approach can be. We can also use Arishtam, Vasha Arishtam, Drakshasam, Kanakasam. There are different Arishtas, which are, the principle is the same. The thing about Arishta is that it is very quick acting. It can be absorbed very quickly into the system. So this can be kept in mind while choosing the formulation. If we want a very quick action, then we can use Arishtam. Also, Arishtam does not depend upon the Deepana Pachana, the Agni of the body, because it has its own Agni and can be easily digested by the system. Then we can see the different Grita formulations. Amrita Prasha Gritam, which is one of the most common preparations given for strengthening the system. Amrita Prasha, all the different Gritas can be prescribed, and the Rasayanas are usually given when there is sufficient Agni Deepana property. There should be some Agni Deepana, or we have to complement the preparation with Agni Deepana. One of the Gritas which I would like to bring your attention to is Rasna Dashamula Gritam. As an example, I just want to discuss this, where this is a very, very important preparation in terms of Kasa. If, for example, the Kasa is found in patient with post-stroke recovery kind of pathology, then just excuse me for a minute, I just returned. I'm back. So I would like to bring your attention to this Rasna Dashamula Dhritam, which is very, very interesting. I was looking at this preparation, and you will find that, especially in terms of post-stroke recovery, and if there is associated reproductive system involvement, many times the cough may be associated with endometriosis or other kind of reproductive pathology. If the lady is in a menopausal condition, and that is all causing, that can actually cause a cough. If there is joint involvement, that cough along with arthritis, this Rasna Dashamula Grita is a very good preparation which can be used. So this is an example of how we can use different preparations. We looked at some of the Vidaryadi Gritam is also mentioned, especially if there is associated Pitta pathology. Vidaryadi I am Hridya Brahmana Vata Pitta. It is Hridya, it has got a cardiac support, it supports the heart. Brahmana Vata Pitta. It is a Vata Pitta pacifying formulation. So this is Vidaryadi Gritam. Asava Adhishta, we looked at it. And Churna. Churna is herbal powder, which can be given, usually given in terms of when there is a repeated cough. It is given repeatedly, muhu dose it is called, that repeatedly administered every half an hour. Mix it with honey as an anupana. Honey is has got a Vyavai Vikashi, it is a spreading, quickly acting property, penetrating property. So Trikatu, Karpuradi, Rasnadi. The same Rasna Dashamuladi which we saw as a Grita is used here. The same formulation as a Churna with honey can be actually taken internally. Rasnadi Churna can also be applied on the top of the head in case of a Vata Kapha pathology. Rasnadi Churna applied on the head, on the top, on the right on the top of the head, topmost part of the head, gives a tremendous result, very quick results, which is commonly used in Kerala. In case of small babies, even it's very safe. Mothers commonly use it on their babies after they take bath. They take a small pinch of Rasnadi and apply it on the head. Vyoshadi is again Trikatu Vyoshadi Vatakam. Gulika, as we described, can be given as Anupana. We saw while we were taking different Kashayas, for example, in Balajirakadi and other Kashayas, Dhanvantaram Kashayam, we can add these gulikas to potentiate the action of the kashaya. Dhanvantaram gulika, Kasturyadi gulika, Vayu gulika, especially if it is associated with breathlessness and dyspnea, then and respiratory pathologies. Vayu gulika is a very good combination. Lavangadi, especially the churnas are specifically recommended when there is a kapha associated pathology, lesser used in case of pitta associated. Then comes the rasayana. Once the doshas are properly balanced, then we come to rasayana. Rasayana means that which is strengthening the system, strengthening the immunity, strengthening the organs, strengthening the srotas. The rasa ayana. It is dealing with the proper flow of rasa in the body, the flow of the rasa from the rasa dhatu up to the shukla dhatu. So we have different rasayanas: Agastya rasayana, Vashishta rasayana, Pushmand rasayana, Tambula rasayana. Among these, Agastya rasayana is a very broad spectrum, very wonderful preparation, especially in case of children. It is very much indicated to support all kinds of allergic manifestations, to prevent, after the cough is gone, to prevent the coming back of any kind of allergic cough manifestation. Agastya rasayana can be regularly given to children. Kushmanda rasayana especially has a very strong supportive effect on the renal system as well as the development of intellectual ability. So if there is associated renal involvement, and especially in children for developing their intellectual capacity, Kushmanda rasayana can be given. It can support the respiratory system as well. Tambula Rasayana is more having a tikshna, sharp quality, so it is used in small quantity, many times not given alone. But Tambula Rasayana, small amount of Tambula Rasayana can be mixed along with either Agastya, Vashishta, or Pushpanda Rasayana. If there is too much excessive kapha involvement, so in order to melt the kapha and throw it out, to bring it out, it helps to actually, Tambula is betel leaf. So this betel leaf has got this kind of property. It actually melts the kapha and balances it. The excess kapha is easily brought out. That is one of the reasons why people chew betel leaf. In India, people have a habit of chewing betel leaf. So because the mouth is the kapha sthana, so to balance the bodhaka kapha, to purify the bodhaka kapha within the mouth, there is a habit of chewing tambula. So tambula is very tikshna and very strong. Thin gruel. Soups can be made. It can be rice gruel or made out of any other grain. We can make vegetable soups, and we can add. The soups can be made in a decoction of dashamula or panchakola. Panchakola, as we know, is a very strong Agni Dipana property. So some dashamula, I say for example, a tablespoon of dashamula and maybe a teaspoon or half a teaspoon of panchakola. Panchakola is made out of three different peppers: the round pepper, black pepper, long pepper, and then the third kind of pepper which is called as chavya, and then chitraka and nagara which is dry ginger, and chitraka which is plumbago zeylanica, which is one of the most agni producing herbs. In fact, one of the synonyms of the plant is agni. So this is panchakola along with jaggery. Sorry for the spelling mistake. It is actually jaggery. Uh, and then you can also give milk gruel, milk decoctions. The same grains or wheat or rice or oats or any of these different grains can be prepared, can be cooked along with milk to make it a little more nourishing, especially in case of the cough which is associated with much degeneration, or the cough which is associated with pitta. To balance this, milk gruel, milk is not as unctuous as ghee. It is much more easily digestible than ghee. So if somebody doesn't have such a strong digestive power, then we can actually use milk, and we can boil it with sesame seeds, dashamula, panchakola, and other herbs, and give that as a gruel or a soup or a decoction. The way how we prepare milk decoction is by adding 1 glass of milk, 5 glasses of water, boil the milk and reduce it to 1 glass. So add the herbs. Different herbs can be chosen according to whether it is a vata pitta, or vata kapha associated pathology, as we discussed earlier. Yeah, these are some of the herbs and examples of some herbs which can be used. Yashtimadu is licorice, Lagu Panchamula, Dashamula, Draksha. Grapes is one of the super uh, substances, dravyas, herbs which can be used for used in case of cough. So I would very much recommend a glass of grape juice, or we can actually soak raisins, good amount of raisins, soak them overnight, keep it overnight, and they will swell up. Do not take the dry raisins because they can actually cause more dryness in the body and excessive vata. But we can actually soak it overnight, and when they swell up, the next day, every half an hour, we can take 2 or 3 raisins and chew them slowly, and suck on them and chew it nicely and take it. This will actually help to reduce the cough. Bala, guduchi, nagara is dry ginger, gokshura can all be made into milk decoctions. Shatavari is a little heavy, so if there is a good agni in the body, if there is not too much ama in the system, then shatavari also can be used as milk decoction. Of course, there are other things like pomegranate, dadima, amalaki, so on. This is a very beautiful rasayana method that is described, which I wanted to specially share with you. It is called Nagavala Rasayana, a Vardhamana method. The Vardhamana means that which goes on progressively increasing with time, slowly, and strengthens the system to such a limit. So if somebody has a chronic kind of pathology and a recurring kind of pathology which comes on every year after year in a particular season, it is because of the weakness of the system. So this kind of Rasayana method can be adopted. It is the method is given here. A certain amount of 1.5 karanja. One karanja is 4.8 or about 4.9 grams, and 1.5 karanja is taken on day one, and then double the amount the next day, and then keep on increasing 1.5 karanja every day till you reach about 12 karanja on the 8th day, and from then on maintain it stable in the same way till the 30th day. So it's a 30-day Rasayana strengthening program, and no other food. This is the speciality of this Rasayana, that no other food should be taken during this except for milk. These herbs, Manduka Padni, Yashtimadu, dry ginger, is boiled in milk and taken. It is described in the Ashtanga Hridaya Chikitsa Sthanam, 3rd chapter. It is one of the best rasayanas, and you can drink as much pure milk as you feel like, good milk. But if you break the dietary regulation, there can be a very serious consequence. But if you can actually follow it, it's got tremendous. It's a very simple process. It doesn't. All it requires is some mental discipline, and the benefits of this rasayana, pushti, it nourishes all the organs of the body. Person becomes very strong. Ayu, it gives a long life. balam, strength, nourishment, and varnam. In fact, I have personally seen that after using somebody who has actually used this milk diet and these herbs for 30 days, at the end of 30 days, when you look at the person, and the person's skin and the aura has got a special effulgence, and that property is called varnam. The complexion becomes so attractive. So this is a benefit of this kind of rasayana treatment. Then this is a homemade churna that you can actually make for kasa. This described in the Ashtanga Hridaya. Very simple. Just rock salt, dry ginger is shunti, then black salt, then some tamarind, then pomegranate powder. Actually the dried pomegranate, the rind of the pomegranate, the inside white part, which is actually dried and powdered. Some tulsi leaves. Tulsi is Ocimum sanctum. Tulsi leaves, then black pepper, cumin, and coriander. In this particular ratio that is given here, I will send you this PowerPoint so you can use it. If you can make this, and rock sugar 20 times. Just powder all of that together and keep it, and then administer that with honey. It is a Vata Pitta Kapha pacifying, Tridosha pacifying type of Kasa Churna. Along with honey, if somebody can lick that in any kind of cough, it will be very helpful. So this is called Saindhavadi Churna, also called as Shardava Churna, mentioned in Ashtanga Hridayam. I have made little modification depending on certain availability of ingredients so that you can make it very easily, but the effect is very much the same. Then one of the important herbs is Haritaki. Haritaki is producing Vatanulomana. It is a Vata pacifying herb, as you know. If you want to use individual herbs, then Guruchi. Guruchi is also Tridosha pacifying. It is also strengthening. It is also supporting the heart. Especially Guruchi is good in terms of diabetic people. Like this lady whom the patient we were referring to was a diabetic patient, and thus one of the best medicines that would be good for her is Guduchi containing. It is has got a balancing effect on the diabetic blood sugar levels and supports all the different pathologies connected to diabetes. So this is one of the best herbs for a diabetic person. Kantakari. Kantakari is especially good in Vata Kapha Kasa. It is especially if there are skin related pathologies associated with cough. So Kantakari especially gives a lot of support to the skin, and if there is obesity also. So in case of if there is obesity and skin disorder as well as cough. So as I told you earlier, we have to see that there are many associated pathologies that come along with cough. Cough is not alone. So we have to choose the medicine according to what kind of pathologies are associated with cough. This is what I would like to share with you today. We come to the end of this presentation, and finally what happened to the patient was given Bharangyadi Kashayam, Dashamula Rasayanam, Nadvikadi Lehyam every half an hour, and patient was a diabetic, was given milk decoction with Guduchi every day, Bala Guduchi milk decoction, and in just about a week the patient recovered and she is completely fine now. So this is how I would like to present the management of Kasa. Of course, there is much more to it, but within the time that we have, the limited time, I have tried to give you an understanding of what is Kapha, what is Kasa, and the pathology and the management of Kasa. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and you can also send me your questions on email. I'll just write my or on Facebook, Dr. Sanjay at purnarogya.com. This is my email address. You can also find me on Facebook. You can send your questions on Facebook. I'll be very happy to answer them. And once again, I would like to say thank you for joining me today for this class on Kasa. I hope that you have got something out of it and you will be able to implement these in your practice. So over to you for questions if you have any. Thank you very much.